Hello. All right, we're going to talk about Chapter 4, Enforcing Fire Safety Compliance. Always a good idea to enforce compliance with fire safety. So, there we go. There's what it says, enforcing fire safety compliance. I told you that. Describe legal authority for code enforcement. I'm going to do the top of the overview here. Describe the importance of plan review and its relation to code enforcement. Identify how control of sales and use assists in fire code enforcement and give some examples of control of sales, what that means. Recognize how structural control is used as a means of code enforcement and give specific examples of structural control. Identify how control of occupancy is used as a means of code enforcement and give an example of controlling occupancy. Describe compliance and abatement procedures and why assurance of compliance is preferred over court action. List some fire safety considerations and specific special types of occupancies. So there you go. There's a not more than 50, 90 persons permitted. That's an occupancy permit. And almost everybody, restaurant, meeting places, assembly places, they call it, has one of those. So publicity for fire codes, media is often used ineffectively. Effective use includes press coverage for enactment of fire safety codes, gives clear idea of code coverage. In other words, when there's a new code come out, why do they do this new code? What does it mean? And that type of thing. How can you be, how can you be in compliance with it? Most of the time, with a new code, it's because of something specific that happened and is only going to affect a small amount of people. Signage, like no smoking, occupancy capacity, that type of thing. Pre-review program for fire code enforcement. Programs for reviews of plans and specifications need to be done by qualified, trained individuals, coordinated and carried out with the building department, because we're talking about planning stages here. So the building department's got to be involved in it. Rotated through fire department as procedure, established through municipal directive. So every municipality gets involved in it. It's one of the I don't say problem with fire prevention, but that's because it varies all over the place. So because it's being driven by the municipality. Fire protection engineers, it's the ideal scenario for a plan reviewer. Speak with authority among industry professionals, usually civilians, as opposed to like a fire professional. Assist in long-range departmental planning, typically found in larger but not in smaller departments. Sometimes I have a fire protection engineer there. Yeah, I mean, most small towns can't afford something like that. Plan review program should include preliminary plan review. And the reason for that is, like, before the quote plan review, is the reward is a preliminary plan review, because problems, the earlier they're detected, the more easily they're changed. If you can catch something early on before things move down the road and stuff gets ordered, material comes on site, well, then you can't change anything. But if you can get done earlier on, you can change it a lot easier. And architects more often provide plan review at this stage. Archiving of critical documents allows retrieval of information months or years later. Desirable from a legal standpoint in case of future litigation, and reduces storage space. CAD permits retention of plans by computer. And I worked at a company in California that made draperies and stuff for hotels and motels. I was doing the quoting on it, and when the quoting on it, we would get on draperies for it. We would get plans, it'd be 6 inch, maybe 2 or 3 of those like that. And we'd have to figure out what the windows were and where they were and how many there were on this and measurements of them, and then quote on the window coverage for them. So it was a lot of paperwork. I mean, not of paperwork to do the quoting, but a lot of paper that you got, because we got the whole sets of plans. Plan review. Firefighters should be trained to read blueprints, provide some representation of fire servers in the plan review process. It would help if they knew how to read a blueprint. Code backing, designed for code reference. Plan review correlation with inspection, only effective if it's followed up with inspection. So plan review has to be, has to have the inspection too. And that's where these inspections come in when the building inspectors, they call them. And I know building inspectors aren't real popular on construction sites, but they're for a reason. That the building has to be built according to the specifications laid out in the blueprints. And so the requirements in the plan are not always carried out by the builder, and they cannot always be detected in the field. As I've said many, many times, problem with the contractor, but contractors make more money if they get it done quicker. So if they can skip something, they're going to try to skip it. Not all of them, but a lot of them will. So you got to really be careful about that. Plan review correlation with inspection and cooperation between several agencies is essential. And the insurance industry may have interest in plan review because they're going to insure that building. You want to be sure it's built right. That's just a plan review. It's two people looking at the plan. Control sales and use of means of fire as a means of fire code enforcement. Control sales. In other words, like gasoline, hazardous materials, fire alarm systems, extinguishers, explosives, fireworks. You and I just can't go. You can buy fireworks from a fireworks stand, a couple weeks before the 4th of July, at least here in Oklahoma. But someplace you can't even buy them there. Explosives, of course, I don't know where you'd buy explosives, but I don't think I could go down to my local TNT R Us and buy explosives. Extinguishers, yeah, you can buy them just about anywhere because let's face it, they're a defense, not an offense. Fire alarm systems usually are sold by certified people that are certified by maybe some state agency. Hard to tell. It's probably all over the place. But if you're going to put a fire alarm system in your building, you do it by somebody that you knew, or not the people, but you knew the company by name. Hazardous materials, you just can't buy that anywhere. Gasoline, of course, you can buy gasoline just about anywhere, but they shouldn't let you put gasoline into just anything, and except proper gasoline containers. And I don't know why you would anyhow. Another means of fire abatement and prevention. Fire Prevention Bureau responsible for controlling explosive, gasoline, fireworks, and fire extinguishers. So the Fire Prevention Bureau, again, usually in larger towns. Control of gasoline sales subject in most fire prevention codes. The handling, storage, dispensing, the type of container is critical. You can't put gasoline in anything. You shouldn't be able to. Fire alarms, public safety function, they must be properly designed to function in an emergency. And some communities require fire alarms to be approved by the fire department. Control of explosive, control of handling, storage, and sales of explosive, long covered in fire prevention code. Identification of the purchasers and recording name and address. So you might be able to buy them, but you got to identify yourself so they know who they're being sold to. And they usually control the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives. And of course, they need security measures from theft. You just don't buy explosives, but they can set them out on your back porch. Fireworks usually just certify individuals who set off public displays. Structural control is a means of fire and building code enforcement. Structural control is a means of enforcement effected through the plan review function coupled with inspection before occupancy to ensure that all safety requirements have been fulfilled. It includes inspection of materials, appurtenances, and other factors related to the building, like fixed manufacturing equipment, interior finishes, fixed fire protection systems, re-inspections, electrical equipment. This is not just from a fire point of view. Of course, it's very important. But do you ever wonder why when they have a 3.5 earthquake in a third world country, all buildings fall down? They have a 3.5 earthquake in California, nobody even notices it. It's because of building inspectors and the plans, the way that the codes they have to be built to, and then the fact that the building inspectors help make sure that they are built to those codes. So they're a good thing. Fault tree analysis of problem solving to predict relationships, accidents that can lead to some failures. And then smoking materials in 2010, they started 90,000 fires. That's a lot of fires. Big bulky waste materials can be an ignition source, even paper in offices. Fire safe cigarettes. Cigarette Safety Act 1984, Fire Safe Cigarette Act of 1990, NIST, ASTM standard test method for measuring the ignition strength of cigarettes. So cigarettes were even altered a bit to be less unsafe as far as fire goes. And it makes a lot of sense because a lot of people died in bed from cigarettes. Control of occupancy as a means of fire code enforcement. Control of occupancy, an enforcement method that controls occupancy load through determination of the adequacy of egress and through provisions of fire safety personnel on scene to ensure an orderly occupation in the event of a fire. Determining and posting occupancy capacity within structures. So the occupancy capacity use of fire watch, maybe train company employees. Let's say you were going to build a 100,000 square foot building, but it was going to be for retail sales. Well, that'd be one thing, but let's say it's going to be for concerts. That's a whole different ballgame now. You're going to have a bunch of people packed in there for a concert. And so that means that you're going to probably have to have more exits and all that stuff. A lot of stuff is comes into play because of the occupancy of the building, the type of occupancy. Legal aspect of fire code enforcement, ultimate goal is improvement of facility rather than imposition of punitive measures through notice of violation, injunction, local issues, potential liability. In other words, most of the time on fire code enforcement, they're not trying to punish anybody or fine them, put anybody at the other. They just want it fixed and make the facility safer. That's their goal. And I have to admit that as a career or a group of fire safety people or firefighters, even the whole fire protection thing, in my humble opinion, are pretty goal oriented about saving lives and keeping people safe. I got to give them credit for that. You don't hear much stuff from these people about scandals. I mean, sure there are some, they're human beings, but about other stuff. Condemnation of unsafe structures. Power granted permitting building owner official to order demolition if the owner fails to take corrective action. They're usually local statutes, and they have the authority. Almost every city has the authority to demo or make them repair it. And they usually, by these statutes, give you plenty of time. There's something that needs to be fixed to fix it, but usually they're not going to play. They're beyond fixing. They're going to be condemned, and that's a good idea. And special occupancies, fire prevention, and life safety measures often come about as a result of tragedy. Nursing homes, boarding homes for the elderly, high-rise structures. Incapable self-preservation, a condition associated, for example, with reduced cognitive ability, inability to ambulate independently, and medical treatment that makes a person unable to take appropriate actions when faced with life-threatening hazards. Remember that video we saw about the fire started in the house and the man was in a chair and he got up and instead of walking away, he goes towards the fire. Not where you want to go. Fire safety considerations and special occupancies, residential sprinklers, code development process through the codes. They're only code in very few cities, and most of them I think are in California. Well, they're all over the place. Mandatory requirement is a torturous process. San Clemente, California, Cobb County, Georgia, Prince George's County in Maryland, and Scottsdale, Arizona. And it's going to happen sooner or later, maybe not in my lifetime, because sprinklers are just a good idea. Cost savings to be able to use 1 hour rated firewalls instead of 2 hours, for example. If you have a sprinkler system, then your building codes change. You can use something that's not quite as fire resistant. So you might actually save money. And your insurance might go down dramatically too. Florida Fire Chiefs Association got legislation requiring retroactively sprinklers in certain existing hotels and motels. Now that's very unusual to have anything about building codes be retroactive. But when you think about it for a minute, Florida is big on tourism and requiring sprinklers in it didn't say all, so maybe it wasn't feasible in every one, but existing hotels and motels to retroactively put sprinklers in would be the economic incentive was tourism, because tourists, not just for that hotel or motel, but tourists bring in for the rental car people, the airlines, the restaurants, everything else. They bring a lot of money with them. Tourists do. So that's a very unusual thing to happen, to have a fire code or any building code enacted retroactively. Usually once your building is built, you grandfathered in if it was built according to the codes at the time. So the plan review is a good idea to make sure things are being done right. Methods of control, we talked about those, the legal aspects of it. There's a lot of legal aspects, but most of them will be after the fact. But most of the time, the fire people, they don't want to get involved in legal aspects of it. They just want it fixed. So that's this one in the can, so to speak. So that's all for now. Catch you later.